Good morning. My name's John. This is my morning drive. For the next 20 or 30 minutes, we're going to be talking politics. To give you a little bit of background, this is my pilot episode. Today is March 2nd, 2012, and I'm a middle-class IT guy and a staunch progressive Democrat. And I am going to be talking with you about politics. You'll hear. What are you gonna hear? You're gonna hear news. You're gonna hear opinion. I'm not Fox. I'm not gonna tell you it's news and give you news and opinion. I'm gonna tell you it's news and opinion, and that's just the way it is. You gotta bear with me for just a moment. I gotta get the mail. And not much in the mail, just the car payment. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying. I'm in sunny Fort Myers, Florida, so you're going to be seeing palm trees and sunshine while I'm talking to you, so the scenery's not too bad. It's nothing spectacular. You're not going to get a beach view or a sunset or anything, but at least it's going to be somewhat nice to look at. So anyways, I know, I already said that I'm a staunch progressive Democrat, so that likely means I'm an Obama supporter, right? Yep, you got it. I'm an Obama supporter. But just because I'm an Obama supporter and I plan to vote for Obama for the second term does not mean that I'm an Obama robot. I don't agree with everything he said. I can't stand his educational policy. He needs to absolutely be more inclusive with education. Sit down with some real educational minds, not Artie Duncan, and buy into the waiting for Superman crap. And some of his environmental policy I don't like either. Opening up all these deep water drilling permits, don't like it. I'm an environmentalist as well, so I think we need to hit alternative energy hard. And he's done that to a degree, and he has the right idea. I mean, I am realistic. I know we have to have a portfolio of energy, which includes natural gas, provided it can be harvested without fracking, and of course oil for the time being. I am realistic in that regard, so I'm not gonna sit here and say we just need to go to solar, wind, and geothermal right now, and that's all we can do. Don't agree with nuclear though. The potential risk for disaster is too great, considering how much it costs and the fact that we have to dispose of the waste, which is in itself costly. I mean, I just don't see the merit in it, considering we have other alternative energy sources that are completely clean with no back-end waste. And by the time you factor in all the costs to build it like it needs to be built in order to avoid disaster, it's just not feasible. So anyway, enough of that. I'm going to talk about current politics. Super Tuesday's coming up, 5 days of Super Tuesday. I'm not going to go over that right this second, but because I want to bring something else up first. The thing that really has people fired up right now, and it's got me fired up too, but I understand there is a game being played, and that's Rush Limbaugh, and actually on a broader level, the attack on women's reproductive rights or women's health care. I mean, Rush Limbaugh is such a freaking idiot. The guy's a piece of shit, you know? I mean, you got a 24-year-old college student. The girl is not extremely loud or outspoken or anything like that. She's very intelligent. She gets up and she testifies and she says her piece. She didn't say she wants free contraception. She stated her case based on people that she knows and health related situations. Like her friend had an ovarian cyst problem that can only be resolved with birth control. And then of course her friend lost the coverage on birth control, and the cyst came back. She had to have an ovary removed, so she's basically not able to reproduce now like all the GOP members would like to see, everybody popping out babies. without regard for anything. And Rush Limbaugh decides to call her a slut and a prostitute, and then on top of that say that she's having so much sex that she can't afford the contraception, and that if we're to pay for the contraception, that he said that he wants something in return, and that would be tapes of the sex to be posted online for them to view. Now, if that's just not the most disgusting, I mean, it was on all the talk shows last night, and people were outraged, and rightfully so. I mean, that's just, I mean, I understand Rush Limbaugh's a hate merchant, and he does all of his bullshit to get ratings, or a lot of it. But damn, man, I mean, that's just, there was no need for that. And you know, I mean, Clear Channel is such a shitty company. You know, I'm not a Howard Stern fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, Howard Stern probably got kicked off the radio for, you know, some outrageous remark or a sexual thing or whatever. And Rush Limbaugh can say whatever he wants and nothing happens. I think Clear Channel needs to be taught a lesson. If any of you remember Glenn Beck, yeah, I know, I've forgotten about him too, but he still exists, he's still around, unfortunately. What happened with him is he got so crazy that finally some people started a campaign to boycott his sponsors. And that campaign was a smashing success because, in case you're not aware of it, Fox News canceled his show. And it wasn't because the ratings were terrible. The ratings were actually still decent. They weren't great, but they were decent. They weren't bad enough to where it mandated canceling the show. But what did happen was there were so few sponsors left that would actually throw in with this guy. I think there were only 3. That Fox News says, you know what, we can't monetize your advertising time anymore, so we're going to have to cut it loose. And that's how it went. So if we did the same thing to Rush Limbaugh's sponsors, which Quicken Loans, LegalZoom.com, Century 21, and Sleep Number Beds are 4 sponsors of Rush Limbaugh. A good start would be to draft an email to those companies and or don't use their services. That would send a nice message and let them know why you wouldn't use their services again. There's also petitions out there you can sign to call on Congress, congressional GOP members to speak out against it or to condemn the comments or whatever. I don't care one way or the other, because all Rush Limbaugh's doing is being a mouthpiece for what all these asshole Republicans think anyway. They're all thinking that. They just won't come out and say it because there'd be a lot of public backlash. He says it. He's the lightning rod because what has he got to lose? He's not in an elected office. He doesn't have to worry about fundraising or re-election. He's just on the air. And the fact of the matter is he's the most listened to talk radio show in the country. But, on the other hand, he's also the most hated talk radio show host. So, you know, I don't know what the attraction is, the entertainment value, or love to hate the guy, or whatever it is, but that's, you know, facts are the facts. So, of course, we know they don't like dealing in facts. But, anywho, I listened to the Ed Schultz show. Ed Schultz is a champion and a fighter for the middle and working class, or the 99%. I'm also a supporter of Occupy. I also listen to Stephanie Miller and sometimes Tom Hartman. I kind of try to make the rounds on Progressive Talk Radio, who, by the way, play a lot of clips from right-wing radio so that you can hear what's going on, what these guys are saying. And I watch the Ed Schultz show at night and catch, you know, a couple, maybe 1 or 2 other shows on MSNBC if I get the time, but I generally only watch the Ed Schultz show and the War Room with Jennifer Granholm, which I have to give a shout out to Jennifer Granholm. I mean, she was an amazing governor, great politician, great person, big environmentalist, on top of the fact that she's a staunch progressive Democrat. But her show is really awesome. It's different. I mean, it's similar news to some of the other ones, but she really goes in depth with political strategy and political operatives, and she has I mean, I really am not a fan of having conservatives on left-wing talk shows, because generally they're rude, and they talk over you with their talking points, and you really don't have a meaningful discussion with them, and you can't have any kind of a rational debate with them. But the people that she has on her show, she seems to find conservatives that are kind of, state level Republican chairs and, behind the scenes people that actually will engage in a rational, fact based discussion with you. And it's pretty refreshing. I watch Bill Maher as well. I forgot to mention that. I love Bill Maher. But his panels frustrate the shit out of me. He has these conservatives on there that basically just start dominating the conversation, and you get really frustrated. It's like, if I want to see this or hear this, I can tune into Fox News. I don't need irrational, stupid conservatives parroting a bunch of bullshit that they've been fed by the RNC or Rush Limbaugh on the TV on a Friday night. I just don't need it. So, oh well, not a lot I can do. It's his show. But on the other hand, I could choose not to watch it. But on the other hand, most of the time, the show is great. So, what are you going to do? So anyways, getting back to the point at hand is, please boycott Rush Limbaugh. If you know anybody that watches Rush Limbaugh, make sure they know these comments, especially women. I can't imagine any woman in this country agreeing with Rush Limbaugh's comments or listening to the guy. He's a complete chauvinist pig. And the other thing is, which ties in with this same thing, and the overall attack on women's health care, is these ultrasound bills, which, interestingly enough, get introduced and then basically get backed off from because these GOP teabagger morons realize that they way overreach, and they're going to get killed in an election if they keep going down this road. So, they're going to learn sooner or later. But the other thing is this blunt Rubio Amendment, which everybody is calling a blunt amendment. It's blunt Rubio, which the reason why I want Rubio in there is because idiot Marco Rubio in our state of Florida, Mr. Cuban, Mormon, Catholic, whatever the heck he is, he's all over the place. He's an idiot. He's another teabagger moron. Is a co-sponsor of the bill, and the bill says, oh, and by the way, actually, it's not a bill, it's an amendment. It's an amendment to a transportation bill. A transportation bill that Senate Democrats introduced, and it's got some bipartisan support, but not nearly enough to, believe enough to overcome the filibuster, which, newsflash, filibuster. A transportation bill that we so desperately need right now, because it would put people to work rebuilding our infrastructure, which we desperately need. And, of course, Republicans seeing an opportunity to try to slide one of their stupid issues in, just like they tried to tack the Keystone Pipeline thing onto the payroll tax cut issue. It should... The blunt amendment, the blunt Rubio Amendment, was added to this transportation bill. And what it says is, in light of this whole thing with contraception, which the Affordable Care Act, President Obama's Health Care Reform Act, mandated that contraception be covered for employees of religious organizations, not churches, just any religious organizations that are affiliated with churches have to cover contraception for their employees. And of course, the Catholic bishops cried foul, and everybody's losing their mind because they say that, everybody on the right's losing their mind because they say that religious freedom is at stake and blah blah blah, and that's a bunch of crap. We all know it's not that. It's all purely political, just to get the religious right fired up so they'll turn out and vote. And then the president came out with a compromise and said, you know what? You guys, the employer does not have to cover the contraception for free. The insurance company does, which sounds fine to me. And of course, that wasn't good enough for some fringe elements either, even though some Catholic groups came out and said, oh, that's great, and a lot of other people did. But of course, there's still a fringe element in the GOP and the teabaggers, of course. They just want any issues that they can try to attack the president on, they'll latch on to. And so, this fringe element, of which Senator Blunt and Senator Marco Rubio are a part of, decided to come up with this amendment. And what this amendment says is that for any moral or religious reason, a church, a business, a corporation, whatever, any employer can deny any healthcare component, any coverage of any component in their healthcare insurance, in their health insurance policy. They can deny it for what they deem a moral or religious reason. So, if, say for instance, tomorrow, Sony, or I won't use Sony, how about Coke Industries? That would be a good example, because the Koch brothers are a bunch of heartless assholes, and they'd be a great example to start with. Say tomorrow, Coke Industry employees, the amendment went through. Just say it went through. You ready for this now? All right. Coke Industries. Tomorrow they announce cancer screening is no longer covered because we believe firmly, as a religious, based on our religious beliefs, we think that cancer can be cured with prayer, and so it violates our religious beliefs. So we're no longer going to be covering cancer screenings. All right. How's that going to play out? I mean, seriously, I just don't. Thankfully, it got voted down in the Senate, but amazingly, well, not amazingly, because it's all Republicans, except, well, there was one Republican, Olympia Snow, that voted against it, and 3 blue dog dumbass Democrats, which we need to get rid of just as much as we need to get rid of Republicans, voted for this blunt Rubio Amendment. But it got shot down 51-48, thankfully. So, but, I mean, it was close enough to where this isn't over. I mean, you're going to see this war continue, I'm sure. These Republicans are relentless. They never let up on these stupid issues that they think are important. And the funny part about it is, I'm actually kind of happy that all this stuff has come up, this culture war bullshit and this contraception discussion and all this other crap, because these are losing issues for them, big time losing issues. The majority of the country doesn't care about this. This is a settled matter. Contraception. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Planned Parenthood's been helping low-income people with contraception and family planning for years now. So I mean, I don't understand why they think this is the time or place to take up this issue. But hold on just a second. I have to swipe my card to get into the parking garage because we're here. Yes, we are here. I am at work. I'm pulling into the parking garage at work. However, this discussion is too important to stop, so I'm going to keep going until I can wrap it up. So anyway, I mean, this blunt Rubio Amendment just blows me away, and every, it's just. It's asinine. I can't believe these people are just picking this fight. But getting back to my point is, I think the reason why they're picking this fight, because I can't think of any explanation. Politically, it's a complete lose-lose for them politically. I have no clue why they think this is going to fly politically, because it's not. They're going to get killed in the election. They keep this up. But I think what it does do is, you've got Mitt Romney, you've got Rick Santorum, you've got Newt Gingrich, and you've got Ron Paul. They're all disasters of candidates. I mean, they're weak, ridiculous candidates. And I think Mitt Romney's probably going to end up pulling it out at some point. But the guy is showing, I mean, he's spent a ridiculous amount of money just to barely eke out all these elections. I mean, if he has to do that against these bozos, Obama's going to steamroll this guy. So as far as I'm concerned, they're just picking the sacrificial lamb to just get steamrolled by Obama. It's just, I think it's going to be the degree to which they lose, because obviously Santorum's going to get killed worse than Romney. Gingrich, same thing. Ron Paul, he's always irrelevant. I don't even know why the hell he's freaking in the race anymore, because he's an inconsistent, hypocritical dipshit, just like the rest of them. But I think what their strategy is like I said, these guys are not appealing to a whole lot of people. They're not. Their appeal is limited, and as a result, I think that they just want to make sure that they energize and engage and get the maximum voter turnout ratio possible from the religious right. Because I think what they're seeing is, yeah, you got Santorum, who's a Catholic. And of course, we all know how a lot of Protestants feel about Catholics. They're not necessarily they don't really love Catholics. Um, Newt Gingrich is Catholic. There again. Mitt Romney, Mormon. Definitely not a fan. Protestants definitely aren't a fan of Mormonism. They call it a cult. A lot of them do. Um, and then you've got Ron Paul, who I think is a Protestant, but again, he's irrelevant. He's not getting any coverage. He's a whack job. He's crazy. If you go look at Ron Paul's platform, yeah, I like the whole end the wars. I like the whole legalize drugs, end the foreign aid, blah blah blah. But that's where it ends. If you go look at the rest of his platform, he's for personhood, which is life begins at conception, which even whack job Mississippi wouldn't pass. If you can get that shit passed in Mississippi, I mean maybe Texas would be the other place you could go. Um, and then he also believes in overturning Roe versus Wade, so we can return to back alley abortions and women will start dying again from having abortions. I mean, it's stupid. I can't for the life of me figure out why in the hell he would want that. So anyways, I think the strategy there has to be just to energize the religious right, because that voting bloc was what helped get George W. Bush elected, and it didn't really turn out very strong for McCain because he was not, Bible thumpy enough for him. His religiosity was a little low, so I guess he just wasn't quite the Christian soldier that they really wanted. So that's my take on all that. The attack on women's health care, I think, is a complete lose-lose for these guys. For whatever reason, their strategists or whatever think it's a good idea. We'll have to see how it turns out. I mean, everything's going for the president right now. His approval ratings are trending up. Economy's getting better. Unemployment rate's going down. The only thing is, if it wasn't for gas prices, man, he would really have his approval ratings would probably be another 5 points higher, I think. Because there's always a faction of stupid asses that are going to blame Obama for gas prices, which is just a shortcut to thinking. But, you can't prevent people from thinking a certain way, unfortunately. Because you've got Fox News out there polluting people's minds, and nobody seems to be able to do anything about that. They're not held accountable for reporting news and opinion as news. So what are you going to do? Super Tuesday's coming up. That's an exciting day. 10 states, a mix of caucuses and primaries. I think Mitt Romney's probably poised to take the majority of them. I mean, to this point, they've tried to make this into this big horse race, and honestly, it always ends up anticlimactic. Romney generally pulls him out, except for that sweep that Santorum pulled off a couple weeks back. But the problem is if you look at the delegate count, I mean, Santorum, it seems like things are close, and recently Santorum's nearly split the delegate count in Wyoming and right down the middle split in Michigan, but he's got a third of the delegates that Romney does. So I mean, obviously Romney got Florida, which is a winner take all, so it was a 50 delegate chunk. So I mean, that's a problem. I don't know how Santorum's going to make up that ground unless he happens to things really fall right for him in Super Tuesday and he can pull a good chunk of that Super Tuesday vote out. But I mean, you got Newt Gingrich, who's from Georgia, is probably going to win Georgia. That's a big delegate count. So I don't know that Santorum. I mean, maybe Santorum will latch on there. I'm not sure, but I don't know about Ohio. I mean, he's talking about manufacturing, but I mean, you look at Rick Santorum's record. He's not a pro-union, pro-worker guy, but he's trying to make himself out to be, this manufacturing champion. It's like it's a complete bullshit. I mean, his manufacturing plan's a disaster. Yeah, he wants to reinvigorate manufacturing, but that's already happening. I mean, manufacturing jobs. We've created the most manufacturing jobs in the last few months than we did since the 90s. So manufacturing is back on big time, back on the upswing. A lot of momentum. Rick Santorum wants to give manufacturing companies he wants to give manufacturers a 0% tax rate for bringing jobs back to this country. That's all well and good, but we're doing that right now without giving them 0% taxes. We don't need to give corporations any more tax breaks, and we certainly don't need to give oil companies any more subsidies, which President Obama, by the way, called on Congress yesterday to turn out and vote against oil subsidies. Finally, get these subsidies off the books so we can use that money for something else. Because why in the hell would you want to give oil companies $4 billion a year of our taxpayer money? Why? They don't need it. They've been making windfall profits for years now, and these guys are getting away with murder. I mean, this is a topic that fires me up. We're going to pay these assholes $4 billion a year to make a shitload of money and then do shit like the BP oil spill in the Gulf, which caused irreparable damage to people's lives in the Gulf and killed all kinds of marine life, and of course is going to pollute the food supply in the Gulf for years or decades to come. I mean, how is it that we can allow this to continue? I mean, and why is it that people why is these assholes on the right think that green is a four-letter word? It saves people money. Green saves green. So if you want to keep spending money unnecessarily, keep doing it, dumbass conservatives. I mean, that's the thing that blows me away is conservatives aren't conservative. If they were conservative, they'd be more concerned about, instead of worrying about the fact that the government's trying to tell them what kind of light bulb to use, they would embrace the fact that compact fluorescent LED light bulbs take like a quarter or less of the energy and put off almost no heat. And the failure rate is, I mean, I still have CFLs. I think I've had one CFL in 6 years go out on me. I've got 6-year-old CFLs throughout my house. I mean, that just shows you the longevity. I mean, yeah, they have mercury in them, but as long as you dispose of them responsibly, there's no problem. I mean, the fact of the matter is I'm saving a lot of money on my electric bill, and they're lasting me for a long time, so I'm not spending a bunch of money. The other thing is alternative energy sources. Why the heck would these guys not want to look at alternative energy sources? Or drive more fuel-efficient cars? Instead, no, you have these jerk-offs in these huge Dodge Ram trucks that are screaming down the street. They get behind you. You don't go fast enough for them. They just scream around you, just peeling tire and just driving like a bat out of hell. What they don't realize is when you mash your foot to the floor, you're sucking a lot more gas, which is basically just draining money out of your pocket. If these idiots would take the time to pay attention, they would realize that if they slowly accelerated and they tried to drive at slightly lower speeds, they would save like 20% or 30% on their fuel bill. You know, I just don't understand why people aren't a little bit more willing to be educated on things like this. But anyway, enough of my environmental rant. Hopefully this is a good first episode. Hopefully you enjoyed what we've been talking about. What I'd like you to do is get on my website, which is shredoftruth.com, which I created. My wife and I decided it was time to try to do something grassroots to try to make a difference in 2012 elections and beyond. So we created a website called shredoftruth.com. It's kind of a news roundup, and then I've also got some other things on there, some other fun things. There's plenty of ways for you to interact. Feel free to click on Contact Us and send me a message, or you can email me at mymorningdrive@shredoftruth.com. And my name's John. Feel free to call me by my first name. Like I said, I'm a middle-class guy. I live in Fort Myers with my wife in our house. We both drive 2005 vehicles. Nothing fancy. We're not rich. We're looking out for the little guy. And I think that's what we need more of. What I'd like to look at doing is, I mean, this isn't a full-blown radio talk show, although at some point I wouldn't mind it turning into that. I've been on Ring of Fire Radio with Mike Papantonio. He interviewed me. You can click on that on the website and hear the interview that I did back in July with Mike Papantonio, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. He seems to think I'm a natural at this. Obviously, I've never done radio broadcasts before, but you know, I'm a dude with a lot to say, so I figure I got 20-30 minutes a morning to kill on the way to work. I may as well chew on some politics, get it off my chest. You hear it and you're filled with all this information all day long, and I can talk about it with my wife, but I'd like to talk about it with other people too. get your opinion. So what I'd like you to do is send me the email. Send me an email at mymorningdrive@shreddertruth.com. And if you'd like me to discuss a particular topic, I'll take a look at it and maybe I'll discuss it. And also, if you think I'm wrong about something, send me the factual data to prove me wrong. I don't want to spread lies and misinformation. So if you've got proof that I'm wrong, and it's not from Fox News or some biased news source, some wacko right-wing news source, unbiased news source, by all means, pass it along. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it. And I'll say your name and I'll say what it was that you corrected me on. And if you'd like to include your phone number, I'll be happy to call you during the show and get you on and we can talk. I don't have the resources to operate a full-blown radio show, so I don't have a staff or anything like that, and I don't have screeners. So instead of taking incoming calls, what I would need to do is take incoming emails and then review those emails, and if I feel that you've got some good stuff to say or that we could have a good debate or a good discussion, regardless of whether you're a conservative or a liberal or a Democrat or a Republican or whatever you are, I'll be more than happy to get you on. I'll call you. We'll get on. We'll talk, and then everybody that's watching can enjoy it. And anybody, feel free to send me emails with comments or suggestions or topics you'd like to discuss, or even news links. If you'd like to become a featured blogger on ShredderTruth.com, I'd love to see your work. I'd love to feature your stuff if it fits in the criteria of what we're looking for. Definitely. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to keep trying to get better at it as we go along. Hopefully try to inject some other stuff into it and do something fun with it. So I welcome your feedback. I'd really like to hear what you think about it. Give me a shout. Keep on rocking in the free world, people. Have a great Friday, March 2nd, 2012. I'm out.